African women to watch. I'm Uche Okoronkwo. Now, the World Bank predicts that Africa will become the next major hub of technological innovation thanks to an ongoing revolution in its ICT sector. Yet despite this momentum, the International Telecommunications Union found that women in Africa are poorly placed to benefit from this growing industry, with most of them occupying lower-level positions. Now, coming up on today's show, we chat with two of Africa's technology pioneers and find out how they rose to the top. Kenya has emerged as a leading player in Africa's technology sector after the huge success of its mobile payment system, M-Pesa. Now, in 2006, the country was the first in its region to lay down a fiber optic cable in partnership with the United Arab Emirates. And this year, its government launched plans to build a $10 billion Konza Technology City just 60 kilometers outside its capital, Nairobi. Now, Kenya's Ministry of Information and Communication expects the ICT sector to make a larger contribution to GDP in the next few years. And innovative projects like the iHub, a space created to cater for the country's growing tech community, are popping up throughout the capital. Now, the hub allows tech entrepreneurs to share ideas, attend mentorship programs, and also pitch their innovative projects to prospective lenders. And this is where we met with Juliana, Rotich, and Sophia Bekele to discuss Africa's fast-growing ICT sector. Sophia Bekele saw this tech revolution coming more than 10 years ago. Based in the United States at the time, she used her 20 years of experience working in Silicon Valley to found CBS International, a company focused on technology transfers to emerging economies, such as her home country of Ethiopia. She also launched the DotConnectAfrica campaign to join the US, Europe, and Asia at the forefront of the World Wide Web with a .Africa domain name.
I would say we were a pioneer in allowing businesses and educating the businesses, small businesses, large businesses, even governments to set up websites and communicate with the outside world.
Today, experts agree that Africa is fast becoming a global ICT leader with homegrown innovative products such as money transfers and social media apps, touchscreen medical tablets, and mapping softwares. Juliana Rotich became one of Africa's top innovators when she co-founded Ushahidi, an open-source software project which uses crowdsourced geolocation, mobile phone, and web reporting data to provide crisis reporting and information. Ushahidi has since been used by countries such as Chile, Japan, New Zealand, Australia, Pakistan, Tanzania, and Haiti.
It was in response to the post-election violence that happened in Kenya at the end of 2007 and the beginning of 2008. It started with the idea that how can we use maps and how can we use data and mobile phones to inform each other about what was going on in the country.
The development in Africa's tech space has seen multinational heavyweights like Google, IBM, and Microsoft heavily investing in countries such as Kenya. And with this comes the need for skilled workers on the ground. However, reports show that the participation of women in higher skilled, higher ranking, and higher paid positions remains low. A recent study by European SchoolNet on behalf of Cisco found that women with interest in tech and excellent ICT skills still go for non-technological careers. Multinational companies like Google and Microsoft, they're starting to hire local people on ground. Now, it seems like just a handful of women are taking or playing a part in Africa's ICT sector in this whole movement. What are your thoughts on this? And Juliana, we'll start with you.
The point about them hiring locally, I think, is a really good idea because technology in Africa needs to be localized. That's why companies like ours, particularly with Ushahidi and the type of work that we've done, is not only relevant for the Kenyan context, but for it to actually be global, it needs to be able to serve its purpose. We're part of the technology world, and the ratios, broadly speaking, in the technology world of women in tech is still pretty low. And also women in computer science and technology track in universities is still pretty low. So there's still a lot more work to be done.
Well, are we seeing women competing for the leadership roles in the IT sector? And Sophia, I'd love to hear your take on this.
I would say getting the number of girls or ICT educated women from college is very, very difficult. But it's now very much improving, even in Kenya, and the marketing and creativity that social media like Facebook and others bring, women tend to capitalize their strength on that, which is an entry point for women in technology, in my opinion, and I think it's great. But having the core understanding of the programming and the whole idea behind the infrastructure of how to build a technology project and so forth is not, women are not competing or being, the numbers are very low from that perspective. And in leadership role, I think I would like personally to see a lot of women finding a vision and based on technology projects and pursuing it. There is not a lot at the top, but there is a lot of, I see, in marketing and the creativity of women taking leadership roles.
Is there an appetite from young women to join the ICT sector? I mean, Juliana, what's your take?
Absolutely. Part of the iHub community from the time that we started it in 2010 has been an open space, and that includes women. And there have been startups that have come out of this place that are led by women. A few examples are M-Farm, that is led by Jamila Abbas. There's a fantastic group called Akira Chicks, and they train the next generation of women in ICT. Just from the community interactions that we've seen here and also outside of the iHub, there is definitely appetite for participation and engaging with technology. Technology is not just a boys' thing.
And what do you think has changed in the last 4 years now that we're seeing multinationals showing more interest, Sophia?
Well, the fact that multinationals are coming to Africa in general is a big plus. That means Africa is no longer a consumer, it's active participant as a partner in technology and economic development. So from that perspective, we're very glad to see and we welcome partnership. And although Africans have produced some of the examples you gave, the technologies that we have here, I think in terms of implementation and consumerism and to expand globally, we need our partners. We cannot do it alone. So from that perspective, I'm very happy to see globals coming in.
I think what has changed in the last couple of years is one, connectivity. Since 2009, we've seen increased capacity with the fiber optic cables, and therefore we've got better connections and more engaged online, and setting up online businesses is actually feasible. Before 2009, it was a pipe dream. Now, the other thing that has changed is we're seeing people thinking about what sort of solutions can they come up with. So I think that signals towards something around Africans being creators of technology, not just present technology and adopters, but creators of future technology.
Coming up next, a look at Kenya's successful mobile banking system, M-Pesa, and more on Juliana Rotich's crowdsourcing initiative, Ushahidi. Africa's so-called mobile money market is huge, topping $61 billion in 2012. Today, more than 55 million Africans use basic mobile phones to transfer money from one person to another, and Kenya has been at the forefront of this technological innovation. In the 6 years since the country's M-Pesa brought banking by phone to Africa, the service has grown to become the most successful payment service in Kenya. It has also been adopted by other developing countries like India, with around 25 million users worldwide. Launched in 2007 by carriers Safaricom and Vodacom, M-Pesa's success is based on its simplicity.
Mobile phones have spread faster than bank branches in Africa, and the continent has become the world's largest market for mobile money services like M-Pesa. In Kenya alone, subscribers have reached 17 million, and more than half of them don't even own a bank account.
It is basically replacing an old traditional way of doing things. One, you have either banks, which are expensive for the ordinary man to carry out transactions. Secondly, some people used to rely on couriers or using buses to send money up country. And this is that you can send money at the click of a button.
The system is simple. Users pay money to a registered agent who credits their virtual account. They can then send that money via text message to a recipient who cashes it at another registered agent showing an ID and a PIN code.
The only significant change in money since credit cards 60 years ago is M-Pesa. The transaction costs for it are so minimal that banks cannot compete with it.
Though landlines are rare, millions of people own a mobile phone in Kenya. With 40,000 agents countrywide, M-Pesa reaches out to the masses, even in rural areas.
In this area, there are no banks. When I have the money and I don't want to go home with it, I run to the M-Pesa shop and deposit it there.
But it does have limitations. One drawback is the lack of any comeback should things go wrong. Unlike banks, mobile service providers are not tied by the same regulations.
M-Pesa, for example, you see it's quite easier to lose your money when you send it to the wrong person, the person cashes you. It does not, like a bank, take liability, such that if the bank gives somebody else your money, that they should be able to refund you.
But for the largely unbanked population, the advantages far outweigh the shortcomings, and SMS cash transfers are here to stay. Mobile banking is fast spreading in other African countries, with mobile money accounts now outnumbering bank accounts in Kenya, Tanzania, Uganda, and Madagascar.
Juliana and her team initially created Ushahidi in 2008 to map reports of violence and peace efforts in Kenya after the post-election fallout. Ushahidi, which is the Swahili word for testimony, saw over 45,000 users in Kenya using the web and the mobile phone app to share information during a time of crisis. The team then realized there was a need for such a platform in other countries.
Now, Ushahidi is used in over 150 countries today. How did you go about growing it?
That took a while, and it came down to community. The Ushahidi community, not only in Kenya, but also globally, because being an open source organization, particularly an open source virtual online organization, we had to put a lot of time into assisting people to use our technology. The other part that was really important to us was to translate, to work with the community to translate the software. And it's now available in over 35 languages, which we're really proud of. The reason why we take translation seriously is because software localization is really important, because people need to be able to use software in their own language in order to make their voices heard. They need to be able to engage in that in the language that they're most comfortable with. English is not the only global language.
I'm curious to know, what do you see in the future for Ushahidi and in terms of what the company has evolved into today?
Now, as a catalyst in the hardware space, the Ushahidi team is also looking at the challenges around connectivity. So with the brick, which is BRCK, we're creating a hardware device that allows people to stay online. Whenever power goes out, you have a failover. So it switches from the Ethernet cable to 3G wireless networks and has 8 hours battery life. So you can continue to work. As you see here, we're a global organization that is dependent on the internet, yet our infrastructure right now it's getting better, but not as fast as we hope. So in the meantime, we're going to solve for that problem.
Now back to your journey as a woman in Africa's information and technology space. Was it lonely? Are there other women who are creating and executing ambitious projects?
At first it was. It was very lonely. A friend of mine was saying, you know, in the early days when I used to come to Kenya, when I was in Kenya working with different partners, that Ushahidi was just me and my solar backpack. But now there is a healthy pipeline of women in tech, some of whom are part of the Ushahidi team, like Linda Kamau and Angela Oduor, are part of a sister organization called Akira Chicks. They mentor high school women and try to show them this opportunity of working in technology, and not just to work in technology, but to love technology and to truly embody it and to make the next generation of technology. So I'm very encouraged that it's no longer a lonely profession to be in.
Coming up next, we carry on the discussion with two of Africa's top leading ladies in the ICT sector.
The world is seeing Africa in a new light as it reaches political milestones and offers exciting new business opportunities. Keep up with this fast-changing continent. The Africa Report delivers real insight and independent analysis, inside stories, facts and figures. Everything you need to know, every month. The Africa Report. Understand Africa's tomorrow, today.
Africa, a continent rich in energy and natural resources, yet almost half the region is facing an energy crisis. How can it harness its full potential while dealing with the demands of a growing economy? Join me each week as I bring together key industry players and policymakers with their views on the successes and challenges within the continent's energy sector. I'm Bosin Amofaye, and this is the Africa Energy Report, only on Bloomberg TV Africa.
Africa's demographic opportunities in technology are attractive because the development of technology in richer countries is stalling. But the reality of this new market in IT means that tech companies like Ushahidi need reliable connectivity, infrastructure, software, financing channels, and data centers.
How are these local companies navigating the challenges that exist? Like you mentioned, there's some infrastructural challenges. I mean, Sophia, what do you think?
I think the broadband revolution, yes, have brought in a lot of opportunities for local companies to start up, and without having the built infrastructure to do many of the e-commerces that we see and many of the innovative technologies. And so I think the broadband revolution would help the communication, the social media. Those two are really key in terms of driving the next generation products, the next generation messages, and then even saying we in Africa have these opportunities and come join us for the multinationals.
What are the barriers that exist in terms of women entering the IT sector?
Talent can be universal, but opportunity is not. I think we need to provide more opportunities for young women, young people in general, to be employed or to pursue their dreams in the digital space. So I think that's the biggest challenge, opportunity for the next person who graduates from a local university. What opportunities are there for them to meet other people, to have the support in order to pursue a specific idea? That is it a startup? Is it working for an existing startup? I think that's number one. And then the other challenge is mentorship, because nobody walks alone. You stand on the shoulders of giants, you know, and some of those giants happen to be men.
I agree with her, and also I think education is an entry point. People need to be educated first. Girls need to be encouraged to go into ICT, into technology as a major. Most girls, I even ask now when I meet them, what are you studying? There's a lot of communication and marketing. The disposition is not towards technology. So that is the first barrier. And the second is, yes, providing opportunity. The company needs to diversify. I have to say, I've had quite challenges, even CBS International. And you know, when I was much younger and started my companies, I recall I did not take the gender issue very seriously. I treated myself like anybody else, going and asking for proposals, loans, and so forth. But then you start growing, and you start, after 5-6 years of doing business, it grows on you how you're taken by men in the field. How did she make it? And you know, it's always, there's a question of when a woman makes it successfully, how did she make it? But a man is not asked how. So those kind of perception management you have to deal with, aside from the trying to perform in the area of projects you are.
When Sophia started her journey towards improving ICT networks across Africa, she noticed that a .Africa domain had not been implemented, while continents like Europe and Asia had fully functional domain names. This gave birth to the idea of DotConnectAfrica, an organization she set up in 2006. Her vision was to promote and establish an African online identity, building a viable governance structure that would operate the .Africa domain and integrate key African stakeholders.
What about your .ConnectAfrica project? Tell me a bit about that and operating the .Africa domain. What was your experience like?
That vision came as a result, in fact, when I was doing the African Union General Secretariat. I started thinking Pan-African. I started thinking, after connecting the Campus Wide Area Network there, what else, you know, the vision is like, how to connect Africa. And the first thing is we introduced it to the Pan-African organization, ECA, and the UNECA and the AU. We got their approvals in terms of go ahead. And there was also other organization. I thought of, you know, the brands and so forth that could utilize these names in Africa. So I had gone to a Corporate Council for Africa, which is a very big organization, NGO in US that does a lot of work in Africa. So I got all those approvals and then moved back to ICANN and made a case for the top level domain name. So everybody got excited and we moved on. Yeah, so we had almost a 6-year campaign, which we got credit for by many people, including Africa and Global Internet Society.
Now, you were a woman, an African woman, establishing these huge projects in Africa's ICT sector. What are some of the challenges you faced along the way?
As an early startup, it was very difficult. I was much younger as well, right? So almost 10 years in Africa doing business. And so the ICT sector, especially large procurement projects, were really male-dominated. So there's always an issue of when you win a contract, you know, how did that person make it? You know, I mean, we still say that even with men, but when it comes to women, there's a perception of, you know, how did that person do it? So there's that issue of always women in business being taken seriously, even after you've demonstrated that you have done well in a project and commissioned it and moved on. So there's an element of competition. But with the younger generation, I think I expect much more better, because we grow together in colleges, we do joint projects, and we move on.
Well, that's it for this edition of African Women to Watch on Kenya's ICT sector. You can catch this episode again on our website. I'm Uche Okoronko. Join me next time on Bloomberg TV Africa.
Africa, a continent rich in energy and natural resources, yet almost half the region is facing an energy crisis. How can it harness its full potential while dealing with the demands of a growing economy? Join me each week as I bring together key industry players and policymakers with their views on the successes and challenges within the continent's energy sector. I'm host Namafaye, and this is the Africa Energy Report, only on Bloomberg TV Africa.